The outcasts arrive. The distress signal had been repeating for 17 days when Captain Elena Vasquez finally convinced her superiors to let her investigate. Her patrol vessel, the UES Pioneer, was small but fast, designed for reconnaissance missions along the outer edge of human-controlled space. Elena had been captain for 3 years, and in that time she had learned to trust her instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming that whoever was sending that signal needed help desperately. The message itself was simple, broadcast in over 40 languages including broken English. We are the Karathi. We have nowhere to go. Please, if anyone hears this, we need sanctuary. We can offer knowledge. We can work. We will not be a burden. Please. Elena stood on the bridge, her coffee growing cold in her hand as she watched the stars streak by. Her first officer, Lieutenant Marcus Chen, looked up from his console with concern etched across his face. The signal was getting stronger, which meant they were getting closer to its source. According to their scans, there was a massive ship ahead, barely moving, its engines failing. When they finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel, Elena gasped at what she saw. The Karathi vessel was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the Pioneer, but it was in terrible condition. Hull breaches had been patched with what looked like scavenged metal. The engines were flickering, dying. Through her ship's sensors, she could detect thousands of life signs aboard, all of them weak. The Karathi were empaths, she learned from the galactic database. They could feel and share emotions with other beings, which had made them valuable as mediators and counselors throughout the galaxy. But that same gift had become their curse. When the Great Divide happened, a massive political split that fractured the Galactic Trade Federation, the Karathi had felt the hatred and anger of billions of beings all at once. It had driven many of them mad. The survivors had been branded as unstable, dangerous, unfit for civilized society. Elena opened a communication channel to the alien vessel. Her voice was steady, professional, but she tried to put warmth into it. Karathi vessel, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Pioneer. We have received your distress signal. How can we help? The response came immediately, and Elena was surprised to see the face that appeared on her screen. The Karathi looked almost human, but their skin had a silvery sheen, and their eyes were larger, completely black except for flecks of gold that seemed to swirl like galaxies. The being who spoke looked exhausted, defeated. Captain Vasquez, I am Elder Thymel of the Karathi refugee fleet. We have been traveling for 2 years, seeking sanctuary. Every world has turned us away. The Zelanti Empire called us parasites. The merchant world said we would drain their resources. Even the Progressive Alliance, who claimed to help all beings, rejected us. They said our empathic abilities make us security risks. The Elder's voice cracked with emotion. We are dying, Captain. Our children are starving. We have maybe days before our life support fails completely. Elena made a decision that would change the course of human history. She did not ask permission from Earth Command. She did not check the regulations about first contact with refugee species. She simply said, Elder Thymel, set course for Earth. I'm sending you coordinates for our primary space station. You'll be safe there. Marcus turned to her with wide eyes. Captain, Earth Command is going to... Earth Command can deal with it when we get there, Elena interrupted. I'm not leaving thousands of beings to die in space because of bureaucracy. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Elena and her crew worked around the clock to help keep the Karathi ship functional. They shared their food supplies, their medical resources, and most importantly, their hope. Elena spent hours talking with Elder Thymel, learning about Karathi culture, their history, their dreams. The Karathi had once been peaceful explorers, using their empathic abilities to build bridges between hostile species. They had prevented 17 wars through their mediation. They had helped traumatized colonies heal after disasters. But when they felt the collective trauma of the Great Divide, many of them had been overwhelmed. The other species, instead of helping, had feared them. Fear had turned to hatred. Hatred had turned to exile. When Earth appeared on the view screen, Elena heard the Karathi crew make sounds she had never heard before. Thymel explained they were crying, but not from sadness. They were crying because they could feel the emotions emanating from Earth. And for the first time in 2 years, those emotions were not rejection or fear. They were curiosity, concern, and remarkably, welcome. Earth Command was not happy with Elena at first. She was called into 17 different meetings, faced 3 review boards and nearly lost her commission. But then something unexpected happened. The story of the Karathi leaked to Earth's media. Within hours, it was the top story on every newsfeed. Images of Karathi children, thin and scared, huddled in the cargo bays of their dying ship, spread across social media. The response from humanity was immediate and overwhelming. Donations poured in from every corner of Earth. Families offered to house Karathi refugees. Hospitals prepared specialized treatment plans. Schools created integration programs. The new Tokyo Cultural Center offered to host Karathi art exhibitions. The Mumbai Tech Institute wanted to study their advanced bio-emotional technology. Even the notoriously xenophobic Mars colony sent supplies. President Chen Wei addressed the United Earth Assembly with words that would be remembered for generations. We humans know what it is to be rejected, to be called lesser, to be feared for being different. Our history is full of times when we turned away those in need, and we have learned from those mistakes. Today we have a chance to be better. The Karathi are not asking for charity, they are asking for a chance. I say we give it to them. The vote was unanimous. Elder Thymel stood before the Earth Assembly, his empathic abilities allowing him to feel the genuine compassion in the room. His voice was thick with emotion as he spoke. For 2 years, we have knocked on every door in the galaxy. We were told we were too dangerous, too different, too much trouble. But humans, you who are considered primitive by galactic standards, you who have barely been spacefaring for a century, you opened your doors without hesitation. We Karathi have a saying, the heart knows its home before the mind understands the address. We have found our home. The integration was not without challenges. The Karathi's empathic abilities meant they could feel every emotion around them. In crowded Earth cities, this was overwhelming at first. But humans, in their typical fashion, adapted quickly. Quiet zones were created where Karathi could rest from the emotional noise. Special shields were developed using Karathi technology, combined with human innovation. Within months, Karathi counselors were working in human hospitals, using their abilities to help trauma patients. Karathi teachers were helping autistic children learn to navigate social situations. Karathi negotiators were mediating labor disputes with unprecedented success. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about Earth's decision. The Galactic Trade Federation sent a formal complaint, stating that Earth was disrupting the established order by accepting beings that had been legally classified as undesirable. The Zelanti Empire threatened trade sanctions. The merchant worlds began charging human vessels extra fees at their ports. Admiral Sarah Thompson, Earth's military commander, was not impressed by the threats. She had seen the intelligence reports. The real reason the other species had rejected the Karathi was fear. Fear that empathic beings would expose the corruption in their governments, the exploitation in their economies, the cruelty in their societies. The Karathi could feel lies, sense deception, and know when someone's public face did not match their private heart. 6 months after the Karathi arrived, something extraordinary happened. A small ship appeared at the edge of the solar system. It was carrying 43 Vrixi, silicon-based beings who had been enslaved by mining corporations for centuries. They had heard about Earth accepting the Karathi and had escaped their captors to seek sanctuary. The Vrixi were followed by the Thren, aquatic beings whose oceans had been poisoned by industrial waste. Then came the Melodians, whose planet had been destroyed by a corporate mining accident that the Galactic Trade Federation had covered up. Each species brought stories of rejection, exploitation, and suffering, and each time Earth opened its doors. When the galaxy came calling, Director James Harrison stood in the observation deck of Liberty Station, Earth's newest and largest space habitat, watching the latest refugee ship dock. This one carried the Solari, beings made of living light who had been hunted for their ability to power entire cities with their natural energy. In the 6 months since the Karathi had arrived, Earth had become known throughout the galaxy as the place that said yes when everyone else said no. The transformation had been remarkable. The Karathi's empathic abilities had revolutionized mental health treatment on Earth. The Vrixi's understanding of mineral structures had led to breakthroughs in construction technology. The Thren had helped clean Earth's polluted oceans using their biological filtering systems. The Melodians had shared their acoustic technology, leading to advances in communication and medical scanning. Each refugee species had brought gifts that enriched humanity in ways no one had anticipated, but success had attracted attention, and not all of it was friendly. James had just received a priority message from President Chen Wei. The Galactic Trade Federation had issued an ultimatum: stop accepting refugees or face complete economic isolation. Earth would be cut off from all galactic trade routes, banned from purchasing advanced technology, and excluded from the interstellar community. The Federation's representative, a tall crystalline being named Executor Prix, had been particularly blunt in his message. Humans are disrupting the natural order. These refugee species were rejected for good reasons. They are unstable, unproductive, and dangerous. By harboring them, Earth is becoming a haven for the galaxy's undesirables. This cannot be allowed to continue. James had wanted to punch the hologram, but he had settled for terminating the communication instead. He turned to his assistant, Maria Rodriguez, who had been taking notes during the message. Maria was second-generation Mars colonist, tough as nails and twice as sharp. She had also become close friends with several Karathi families, teaching their children human games while learning their emotion-sharing techniques. What do you think, Maria? Can we survive without galactic trade? Maria looked at the data on her tablet, then at the refugee families visible through the observation window below. Karathi children were playing with human children in the station's park. Vrixi engineers were working alongside human technicians to improve the station's power systems. Thren gardeners were tending to the hydroponic farms that fed everyone. Director, 6 months ago I would have said no. But look what we've accomplished. The Vrixi have helped us develop mining techniques that are 3 times more efficient than anything we had before. The Thren's biological systems have increased our food production by 400%. The Melodian's acoustic shields have made our ships faster and quieter. We're not the same Earth that needed galactic trade. We're stronger. James nodded slowly. She was right. The refugees had not been the burden everyone had predicted. They had been a catalyst for humanity's greatest technological and social leap forward. But he also knew that the Federation would not accept defiance lightly. 3 days later, his fears were confirmed. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching Earth's solar system. 57 warships from the Galactic Trade Federation, more firepower than humanity had ever faced. They would arrive in 72 hours. President Chen Wei called an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from all of Earth's nations, its colonies on Mars and the Moon, and the space stations gathered either in person or by hologram. The president's face was grave as she addressed them. The Federation fleet is not coming to negotiate. Their message was clear: surrender the refugees for deportation or face military consequences. They claim authority under Galactic Law Section 374, which allows for intervention when a planet harbors criminals or security threats. Senator Robert Nash from the North American Union stood up, his face red with anger. These aren't criminals. They're families, children, beings who have done nothing wrong except exist differently. Representative Liu Mei from the Mars colony added her voice. The Vrixi alone have contributed more to our infrastructure in 6 months than we accomplished in the previous decade. Sending them back means sending them to die. The debate raged for hours. Some argued for compromise, perhaps keeping some refugees while returning others. Others suggested military resistance, though everyone knew Earth's small defense fleet was no match for the Federation armada. But it was Elder Thymel who provided the solution. The Karathi leader had been invited to address the assembly, and when he stood, the room fell silent. His empathic abilities let everyone feel his determination, his hope, and, surprisingly, his confidence. Honored humans, you have given us what no one else would: dignity, respect, and a home. Now it is our turn to give back. The Federation fears us not because we are weak, but because we are strong in ways they do not understand. The Karathi can feel their emotions, their hidden fears, and secret shames. The Vrixi know the locations of mineral deposits that the corporations have hidden. The Thren remember the environmental crimes that were covered up. The Melodians recorded the screams of worlds that were silenced. He paused, letting his words sink in. We propose not war, but truth. When the Federation fleet arrives, we will broadcast everything we know, everything we have felt and seen and remembered, to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Let the beings they claim to protect learn what their leaders have hidden. The plan was audacious, dangerous, and absolutely brilliant. In the remaining 72 hours, Every refugee species worked with human technicians to prepare the most powerful broadcast array ever constructed. The Melodians tuned it to frequencies that would reach across space. The Vrixi built transmitters from minerals that could pierce any jamming attempt. The Thren created biological computers that could process and transmit the massive amount of data. The Karathi prepared to share not just information, but the emotional truth of what they had experienced. When the Federation fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, they were met not with weapons, but with words. The broadcast began immediately, transmitted on every frequency in every language, to every corner of the galaxy. It told the story of the Karathi, driven mad not by their own weakness but by feeling the Federation's hidden cruelties. It revealed how the Vrixi had been enslaved despite laws forbidding it, with Federation officials taking bribes to look the other way. It exposed how the Thren's oceans had been poisoned by Federation-approved corporations, who had then destroyed the evidence. It shared the Melodians' recordings of their world's destruction, clearly showing Federation ships preventing rescue attempts to hide their involvement. But more than facts, the broadcast carried feelings. The Karathi shared the terror of families torn apart, the despair of children watching their parents work to death, the rage of beings treated as less than alive. Every emotion was real, undeniable, and transmitted directly into the hearts of billions of beings across the galaxy. The response was immediate and overwhelming. On the Zalanti homeworld, massive protests erupted demanding answers. In the merchant worlds, workers walked off their jobs, refusing to continue until the truth was addressed. The Progressive Alliance, shocked by revelations of their own leaders' involvement, underwent a complete government restructuring in a matter of hours. Executor Prix appeared on every screen in the solar system, his crystalline form practically vibrating with rage. This is lies and manipulation. You dare to... He was cut off by another transmission, this one from Captain Tavara of the Federation's own flagship. The insectoid captain's compound eyes were focused on the screen as she spoke. Executor Prix, I have been reviewing the evidence transmitted by Earth. My tactical officers confirm its authenticity. More importantly, my crew is refusing orders. They will not fire on beings whose only crime was revealing the truth. One by one, other Federation captains reported the same thing. Their crews, made up of beings from dozens of worlds, would not attack Earth. Many of them had family members who had disappeared over the years, now revealed to have been among the rejected refugees who had died seeking sanctuary. The final blow came from an unexpected source. The Synthetic Alliance, artificial intelligences who had remained neutral in galactic politics for centuries, suddenly spoke. Their spokesperson, a shifting hologram of light and data called Prime Logic, addressed the galaxy. We have observed. We have calculated. Earth's acceptance of refugees has increased their technological advancement by 347%. Their social cohesion has improved by 229%. Their economic output has grown by 186%. Meanwhile, the Federation's rejection of these same beings has led to stagnation, corruption, and decline. Logic dictates that Earth's model is superior. We recognize Earth as a sovereign power and will defend their right to offer sanctuary. The Federation fleet withdrew, not in victory but in shame. Executor Prix was recalled and later tried for corruption. The Galactic Trade Federation underwent massive reforms, with many of its leaders replaced by those who had been inspired by Earth's example. But on Earth, the celebration was mixed with soberness. President Chen Wei stood before the assembled humans and refugees, her voice carrying across the planet and beyond. We did not do this to embarrass the galaxy or to claim moral superiority. We did it because it was right. Every being deserves dignity. Every species has something to contribute. Our strength does not come from our weapons or our technology, but from our willingness to say yes when others say no, and to open our doors when others close theirs, to find family among those the universe calls strangers. Elder Thymel stood beside her, his empathic abilities letting everyone feel the truth of what he said next. The galaxy turned us away, called us broken, useless, dangerous. But humanity looked at us and saw not what we were labeled, but who we truly are. They said, "Come home," and in doing so, they did not just save us. They saved themselves. They proved that compassion is not weakness, but the greatest strength any species can possess. In the months that followed, Earth became the unofficial capital of a new kind of alliance, not one based on military might or economic power, but on mutual respect and shared growth. More refugee species arrived, each bringing their own gifts and challenges. The crystalline ones who could manipulate light itself. The shade weavers, who existed partially in another dimension. The tiny collective, microscopic beings with vast intelligence. Each species that Earth welcomed made humanity stronger, not just technologically but spiritually. Human children grew up playing with beings who looked nothing like them, but who shared their dreams. Human artists collaborated with aliens to create beauty that transcended species. Human scientists worked with refugee scholars to unlock mysteries that had puzzled the galaxy for millennia. The Galactic Trade Federation, reformed and humbled, eventually asked to establish formal relations with Earth. Their new representative, a young Zelanti named Ambassador Thala, arrived with an offer of full membership and trade partnerships. But President Chenwei's response surprised everyone. "We will trade with you. We will share knowledge with you. But we will not join any organization that might one day ask us to turn away someone in need. Earth's doors remain open to all who come in peace seeking home. That is not negotiable." Ambassador Thala's 4 eyes blinked in what her species considered a smile. "We expected nothing less from humans. And perhaps in time we will learn to be more like you." The story of Earth's stand spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring some worlds to open their own doors to refugees. Others remained closed, fearful of change. But the precedent had been set. In a universe that had grown cold and calculating, humanity had reminded everyone that compassion was not just possible but profitable, that diversity was not a weakness but a strength, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you could say to someone in need was simply, "Come home." Years later, when historians would write about this period, they would mark it as the beginning of humanity's true emergence as a galactic power, not through conquest or economic dominance but through something far more powerful, the revolutionary act of unconditional acceptance. The galaxy had turned them away, but Earth had said, "Come home," and in doing so had changed the course of history forever.